It is Wednesday. I have weird light shining on my face. The light is just changing these days. Really, can't do that. Sorry, you're gonna just have to deal with that. Yeah, haven't you noticed that? It was 52 degrees this morning. I think it's supposed to be 91 today as a high in Camp Verde, so we're going back to having those big, huge temperature swings, the 40-degree temperature differences between day and night. We were hoping that happened in the summer too, and it doesn't in Camp Verde. So the significance to yesterday, the significance to today, the 20th, there's actually significance to yesterday, sort of, too. September 20th was the day that Chloe died last year, and Vanessa died September 1st, and Chloe died September 20th, and, but yesterday I was feeling nostalgic because she died on a Tuesday, and yesterday was Tuesday, so even though the actual date was the 20th, the day was yesterday. And so I was just thinking that we've been a year without having dogs in our house, and we just I was just thinking about how the energy in our house is just different. It's just different when you have cats as opposed to dogs, and I'm so looking forward to getting a dog. Really excited about that. But I also got teary yesterday. It was just sort of a fluke that I finished reading The Art of Racing in the Rain, that it just kind of happened on that day. And it's that book, if you watched my recommended books video that I did, it's a book by Garth Stein, and it's really a story about a family, but it's told through the eyes of the family dog. And the dog, when the book starts, the dog is very old, so you know that the dog's going to die. But the dog dying is not the significance of the story. It's a story of a family, really, and it's really quite good. There's some parts where you're just like, no, this can't be happening. But it's good. It has a good ending, except that the dog dies. And you kind of know it's going to happen because the dog is old and like having to be picked up and carried to go outside at the very beginning. So you know it's going to happen. It's not like it's some big thing that I gave away by telling you that. You just know it. And you know that anytime a book has a dog has a significant character, it's going to die. That's just how it is. Certain authors just like to make us cry with things like that. I'm glad that I finished it. Well, it was weird that I finished it on the day that, that Chloe died, and what marked a year of us without dogs. But I'm also really glad that I read it then instead of when I had my old dogs, because it would have been just too hard. Yeah. So the end of the book would have just been too hard. So anyway, when I finished the book, I was just sobbing. And But like I said, it is a good book. So if you don't mind having some tissues around for the end, it's not the very end. There's actually one more part after the sad part that is uplifting, and so so it was good. I recommend it if you don't mind crying. So that was the significance to that. And then also I went to see my dad yesterday, and this kind of rattled me too, because my dad was, he has pneumonia. He's now on oxygen. He's got this deep cough, and yesterday he just didn't look good. He was in the dining room when I got there, and he was eating his lunch. He eats the same thing for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. He eats scrambled eggs, bacon, hash browns, sourdough toast, and sometimes he changes it up and adds in a bowl of oatmeal. He has apple juice, cranberry juice, water, and coffee. Apple juice, cranberry juice, sometimes milk. So yeah, he'll change it up with what he drinks, but for the most part, he's eating the same dang thing every day and not getting in any fruits or vegetables, which isn't good, but what are you gonna do? So I suppose if I was old and sick and I wanted pizza all the time, I would want somebody to just let me have my dang pizza. So he just didn't look good. You know, normally when he sees me, he's like, "Hey, babe," and he didn't. And so I kind of thought, does he know who I am? But he did, because he immediately started talking about my nephew who came to visit over the weekend, and he went and saw him, and so he was talking about that. But my dad's hands were super yellow, really yellow, and he looks kind of pasty. And then yeah, he just seemed very just lackluster, you know, and he was also super nostalgic, and he was kind of like getting teary over things, and he said at one point he said, "How's John's job going?" I said, "It's going really well, and he's working on his CAT scan license," and he's like, "That's good." And he said, "You know, when you guys first got together, I wasn't sure how it was going to go." And he wasn't sure how it was going to go because they expected me to marry somebody who was highly educated and, you know, had this business kind of a job and all this. They just had an expectation of that for me. I guess they expected me to marry somebody who was as type A as I am, and which wouldn't have been a good match. So anyway, and John hadn't gone to college, and I was working on a doctorate at the time, and I didn't really care about that so much. And then, you know, afterwards, John decided to go to school once he figured out what he wanted to do when he grew up. So anyway, so my dad says, "You know, I just wasn't sure when you guys got together how that was going to go." And he goes, "But you did a good job." And he said, John did a good job. And he got a little teary. So anyway, so my dad was just saying that he was proud of us and proud of John and all of that. And so as he's saying this, I'm thinking, man, why is he being so reflective today and getting teary about stuff? And I'm like, is he gonna die? I mean, like, is this it for him? I don't know. And he was just being super sentimental and just, you know, I love you and that kind of stuff. And oh my gosh, so I just left there. I went out in my car and I just cried. So I did a lot of crying yesterday. Okay, anyway, I finished that accreditation report last week, the revisions I had to do on that. It was due Friday, so there is nothing more to do. It was submitted last Friday, and I just am thinking, oh crap, you know, I wrote that report single-handedly, and most of the reports are written by groups of people, but I wrote it by myself, and I was super proud of myself for doing that. But the problem is that if we don't get accredited, then it's all my fault. I suppose there's some consolation in knowing that we won't find out if it got accredited until after I retire. But I'm really hoping that I can leave the program in good hands and leave it in a good state, because it's a good program, and I hope that I don't blow it just because I didn't write the report properly. Yeah, so I'm just hoping that can be like the last big bang that I can offer the reading program as I step down. Well, I'm still going to be teaching in the reading program, but I certainly won't be leading it. Hi guys, it's Thursday, and I'm going to work from home today. Been in Flag the last 2 days. I'm kind of happy to stay home. The weather is really nice. It's in the 50s right now, so going for a walk is just great. Next week is the official beginning of training for my half marathon. I'll be doing 3 miles, 3 days a week, and then a 4-mile long walk. Then 3 miles, 3 days a week, and then a 5-mile, and then the same in a 6-mile and a 7-mile, and then it amps up to 4 miles 3 days a week. And then the long miles, the long walks continue to grow from there. I'll be training with my friend who lives down the street. It'll be her first half marathon. So I've been out of walking for so long now that it's just going to be starting from scratch. So, but I'm excited about it. Anyway, last night something really funny happened. When I got home from Flagstaff, I went out into the backyard to pick some chili peppers from one of my plants that's out by the back fence. Well, we've been feeding the cows fruit lately, and Jax, who's the big giant bull, he came over to the fence where I was peacefully harvesting chilies and just screamed. It was like bugling, like an elk bugle. It was just, ah! Tongue sticking out, spit flying, basically saying, "Where the hell are my apples?" I mean, he was just, it just shocked me. So much so, this is what I mean about these barking dogs. So much so that I couldn't even laugh for a second because I was so shocked. But if I can make him do that again, then I'm gonna film it for you. So because you just can't even imagine what it sounds like unless you hear it for yourself. Hi guys, it's Friday morning. It feels like a Saturday because John is home. I didn't realize this. I thought he was working Sunday night, overnight, but he's working the whole weekend, a whole weekend of night shifts. So he got up at 3 in the morning and just got up and played video games, and he does that so that he's tired enough so that when it gets to be around 11 o'clock, it's 9:45 right now, that he can go to bed and be tired enough to go to sleep. And then he'll sleep till about 6 this evening, and then he'll get up, and I think his shift, I can't remember which one he's doing. I think his shift starts at 8. Sometimes there's a shift that starts at 9, but yeah, now he is outside mowing, which normally he wouldn't do. Normally what he would be doing is he'd have all the blinds closed in the house, because that's really what you're supposed to do when you need to get yourself, you know, prepared to go to bed, and you try to do it in the middle of the day. The bright light tells your body that it shouldn't want to sleep, and so, but he's using this time. Okay, my kitties are wrestling. They've been running all over the house. So yeah, so anyway, but it feels like Saturday because he's home. So I haven't really gotten started on work or anything for the day, because in about an hour he's going to be going to sleep, and I'm going to have to be quiet around here. So I figured I would just wait until then to do some of my grading for my classes, and you know, I've got a freelance thing that I got to finish today. Let's see, what else? Oh, I just made something kind of interesting. I had a watermelon out in the refrigerator, just you know, it's just called a sugar baby. It's not that big, but I just wanted to use it. And I'm reading a book right now. It's a cozy mystery. It's called The Last Wool and Testament, and it's based in a yarn shop. And so those cozy mysteries always have kind of a play on words for their titles, and they tend to have there's some kind of a murder that's happened, usually to somebody nobody liked, and that's awful, right? But anyway, so and then so it's all, you know, just solving this mystery. Well, this book has additional materials that come with it. When you go to the website, you can get these materials. One of them is a pattern to make a little hat, knitting, and then there are 2 recipes. So one of the people in the story, one of the characters, loved rosemary, and so there's this rosemary infused dark chocolate cake, and so that recipe is in these materials. And the other thing was a rosemary infused watermelon lemonade. So I thought, well, I'm gonna go ahead and make it. And I did. So I have my glass right here. It just has, so you make a simple syrup with a cup of water and 1/3 of a cup of sugar, and then bring that to a boil, add in a sprig of rosemary, or I just did like a tablespoon of rosemary because I didn't have like a sprig of it, so I just used the stuff that's already kind of chopped up. So you bring it to a boil, stir in the rosemary and let it sit for an hour, and then the flavor of the rosemary gets infused in there, and then you strain out the rosemary bits. And so you just have this simple syrup that tastes like rosemary. And then in a blender, you put, let's see, 6 cups of, so a cup of lemon juice, fresh lemon juice, and 6 cups of watermelon. So you kind of blend everything in thirds. So you put like a third of the simple syrup, a third of the lemon juice, a third of the watermelon, blend it, then pour it into a pitcher. And then a third, blend it, pour it into a pitcher. And you end up with this, which is really interesting. It's kind of thick because there's no other water in there but that 1 cup that's used in the simple syrup. And so all the water is coming from the lemonade, excuse me, all of the water is coming from the watermelon and, you know, a little bit from the lemon juice. But yeah, so it's kind of, you know, because you don't strain out the pulp in there. So it's a little tiny bit on the thick side, and it's kind of an interesting flavor. It starts out, when you taste it, it's more of a, you know how watermelon is, in terms of fruits, it would be more on the savory side of fruits. It doesn't have that tart tang, but then you get the lemon juice that's in here, and so the aftertaste is kind of like, whoa, and it's quite tart, but it's really, really good. And it used up my watermelon, so that's good, because I was afraid, you know, we've eaten watermelon a lot lately, and I didn't want to have it again, so I figured that was a nice way of making it. So that was good. What are you doing, Chad? Chad. Last night we went to a banquet. There was a group in town that has a home for unwed pregnant mothers, and kind of helps them get on their feet and get jobs and all that kind of stuff. And so it was a fundraiser banquet, and so we were invited to that, kind of a last minute thing. Kelly, who's the one who's doing the 31 party with me, who's the consultant, she had a cancellation at her table and invited us a couple days ago, so I'm glad we went. It was fun. We saw a lot of people there who we knew from our church, and so that was nice. And I guess that's it. Oh, yeah. My mom was talking to the lady from hospice yesterday who said that my dad really does need to get moved to either a different part of the facility where he currently is, or into a home that he just needs some extra attention. He's just getting weaker and weaker and more skinny. And this past week he was really out of it. I think the pneumonia thing, you know, it's just depriving him of oxygen. He's on oxygen, but it just, yeah, he's, if he continues to decline like he has in the last week, then this will probably go fairly fast, unless he just bounces back. So last night I was looking online and looking for, you know, like preparations. What do you do when you're planning a memorial service, and what kinds of stuff do you have to take care of after someone passes away? My mom was sort of freaking out yesterday a little bit, like, oh my gosh, because the lady was sort of bombarding her. Have you contacted a funeral home? Do you know? Have you done this? Have you done this? Have you done this? And she's like, I've never had to do this before. I don't know to do any of this. And so I was kind of helping to talk her off a ledge yesterday, just saying, she bombarded you with a bunch of stuff, but really there's only one thing that we have to do right now. And then after that, there's only one thing that we have to do. And so I was I figured that I would kind of start planning my dad's funeral so that when it does happen, I mean, we'll have a memorial service, so we're planning to have it weeks, like maybe 3 weeks after he passes, just so it's not a big crazy rush, and so people who want to can make plans to be here and things like that. So Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my brother is still recovering from, you know, the hurricane in Florida. He has to get a new roof on his house. That's it. So it could have been a lot worse. Nancy Lee, he does have his power back on. It came back on Saturday. So, but they had a generator, and so they were able to run some of the electricity in their house, and they had a portable air conditioner that they were able to run on the generator. So they were able to at least keep whatever room of the house they were in, they were able to keep that cool. Yeah, I just mentioned that because, you know, my brother is in the midst of a lot of stuff for recovering from that hurricane, and then potentially there's this. Yeah, so it's just kind of weird. That's what I did last night. John and I were just watching TV for about an hour before we went to bed, and I was just looking at preparations for funerals. Very, very strange feeling.